Okay, my friends, we're going to do another cabinet door. So these were a bunch of cabinet doors that I got at a yard sale. Relatively inexpensive. I'm actually using the back side of the cabinet door because the other side has a design on it. You can pick these up pretty quickly at any kind of a restore store, one of those refab building material stores, you know, $5 each, whatever. Basically, I'm going to lay down a coat of white paint, and I do this every time behind my tissue paper because it is what makes the tissue paper pop. We're going to let it dry. So then I'm going to take the tissue paper design that I want to do, and I'm going to take a paintbrush dip in water, and I'm just going to kind of outline where I want to rip the paper. By using the paintbrush dip in water, it helps make the rip seem natural instead of like forced, and it makes it easy. You just get it wet with water and then it just rips really super easy. I am using an 18-pound weight tissue paper. I do carry all of these designs on my online store, tonatransformations.com. I will link the website in the description. The thing about using a tissue paper design is you don't want it to be that square. You want it to look natural. That's why we rip and kind of make the design not so like boom, you know, like this square lines. Square lines just don't go good. So I'm just randomly ripping it, trying to make it fit on this cabinet door. Now it's a little too big, so I'm going to take a little more. I didn't want to really take any off his cone on the top. So I'm going to do a little bit more on the bottom. Because I do want to be able to paint around it and make it seamlessly blend into the cabinet door. So once we've gotten that all situated, we're going to lay it out. We are going to grab the only thing that I will ever use to lay decoupage down with. It is called Dixie Belle's Satin Clear Coat. The color paint that I put down was Dixie Belle's Fluff, which is white. This is a satin clear coat. It's a great clear coat. The thing I like about it is it has a great open time. It doesn't dry very fast, and it's great for decoupage. I absolutely love this stuff. So I have a brush here that's just totally dry that will help me smooth out this paper. The reason I use a dry brush, it's just one of my brushes, that's actually the Dixie Belle Scarlet brush, is because that way if I use my hands, guess what, I'll rip it. Because it's super, you know, you get impatient, you press too hard. A brush will help so you won't rip your paper. And I use 18 weight paper so it doesn't rip easily. What I do is I lay down the top coat and then I smooth out the paper. There is a little edge, so I'm going to get it into those corners first and then kind of sneak it over the edge there so that it lays flat. And then I'm going to take the same top coat and I'm going to throw it right over the top. This is going to seal this guy onto this board. He ain't coming off. He will be wipeable. He will be permanent. He's stuck there. This stuff is great, great products. Dixie Belle Clear Coat. I will link it in the description. You're going to do that. It's going to be kind of opalescent. You're going to let it dry. I just set mine in front of the fan for 15-20 minutes and it dries. And it's going to dry clear. So kind of when you first do it, it kind of looks opalescent, then it does dry clear. Now comes the fun part. When I pick colors, I just kind of look at my design and I think what was kind of on that tissue paper that I tore off, right? It kind of had this kind of celery green background. I don't want like the background to be blue because the bird already has a lot of blue in him. I want the background to pop the actual picture, right? So I'm going to start with this. I am using a smaller Klingon paintbrush. It is a Klingon R14, which is the smaller of the round brushes. I am just dabbing, dab, just dots of paint and just kind of throwing it down there so I have some kind of base coat. And the reason that I'm not brushing it is because the movement of dabbing gives it a little bit of texture. Sometimes I will add a texture medium into it, but for this I'm just kind of going around his design. It's okay if I get paint on the actual bird because guess what, I've already sealed it. Now I'm going to come in with a second color and I used a dark gray. This is called Hurricane Gray. The first one is, what was it called? Farmhouse, what is it called? You know, now I can't remember, I'm sorry. Was it Farmhouse Green? So then the second one is Hurricane Gray, and then I'm actually going to throw in another color, which is going to be an army green called Colored Green. It's a very dark green. So the paint is currently wet, right? I am adding, there's that third color, the army green. It's dark. I'm dotting. I'm just not going full coverage like I did with the first celery green color. Just still dotting, still dotting. Then I'm going to grab a brush that has absolutely zero paint on it. No paint whatsoever. And while this paint is still wet, I am going to take that brush and I'm going to move the paint together in a blending motion. So right here we are still laying down the gray, the dark green, and I'm randomly just dipping dots of paint. You guys, when I say I hardly use any paint, I tip my brush. Just basically, I don't put the whole thing and get it saturated. I just like tilt it to one side and just put a little tiny bit of paint, not a lot. And I just dip it in. The paint is still super wet. The whole board is still super wet. It hasn't had enough time to dry. I kind of go over around with the colors. Then I'm going to grab a paintbrush that is absolutely has zero amount of paint on it. That is dry. I'm going to take that brush, that I'm grabbing right now, totally dry, and I'm going to blend those colors that are wet together. And then I'm going to keep wiping off the top. I have a cloth on my table, so I just wipe it on that, or you can use a paper towel. And what I'm going to do is try to keep my brush as dry as possible. What this does is blend those colors together. Then I'm going to tap in a little bit of the darker color here and there, just to give it a little bit of dimension, kind of like adding veining when you're doing like a granite or marble look. The brush without the paint will just make it smooth together. I have another video on here that demonstrates this too. It's the hummingbird video. Go back and watch that one if you haven't seen it. These are the exact same techniques, different design, different color. Exactly the same. Dot, 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 a little bit of paint. You seriously only need a teaspoon to 2 teaspoons of paint to do this whole thing. I'm not kidding. So we're going to do that. I decided on the cone or the whatever, is that what it's called? The top of his, cock-a-doodle-doo, to grab some red, honky tonk red, this is Dixie Belle, and Florida orange, which is Dixie Belle, so a red and orange. You know what? Here's the deal. They do not have to be the exact paint color that's on the tissue paper, because I didn't design the tissue paper. I don't know what the exact color is. But if you're doing the dot, 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 and just kind of being close, that's why when you blend them together, it doesn't matter if they're not exact, because they'll be pretty dang close. You guys could use, if you wanted, I do retail chalk paint, which I absolutely love chalk paint. But I guess if you wanted to, you could go buy those little $1, $2 Americana paints, the little craft paints, acrylic paints. It would probably work the same. I personally am a furniture artist, so I have chalk paint. So you do you, but this is just for helping you with color selections. Then I was looking at it and I thought, you know what? Let's vein a little bit of that orange through there. And then all of a sudden, this thing popped off off the board. You just need to build your colors, and I'm taking a little bit of vein of orange, and I'm taking that brush that's dry, and I am just then blending it in. So I'm putting the color on with the wet paintbrush, and I'm taking the dry paintbrush, and I am just blending. See that? And that's basically dry, and I'll wipe the paint off. And then all of a sudden, that little guy just popped off there, and he was like, hello, cock-a-doodle-doo, how do you do? So you guys, if you like my videos, please subscribe. And I will post more. If you want to follow my Facebook page or Instagram, it is Tona Transformations. And I do sell all the products that I have shown you today. If you need any of them, please let me know. Thanks again. Go out and be fabulous. Appreciate watching.